Hi everyone, welcome. Thank you for coming to Carpe Datum, Building Big Data Analytical Applications with HP Haven. My name is Steve Sarsfield. I've been with the HP Big Data software team for about 2 years now, specializing in Vertica and Idle and distributed R, some of the intellectual properties that HP has. It's interesting, I think when people think about HP, they think about HP in terms of the laptops and racks and printers and print cartridges and so on, but they don't really think about HP for software, for analytical applications. So for a long time now, due through acquisitions and so on, we have had an analytical platform called Haven. It really consists of a couple of things, a great way to do structured analytics, very advanced analytics, a great way to do predictive analytics, and a great way to ingest data that you may not have as part of your normal analytical stream, things like video and audio and doing facial recognition. So what I want to talk about is just a little bit of those building blocks that I have and go through some of those things. Also want to talk about how it fits into the Hadoop ecosystem, and that's really the major part of my presentation. So I think most of you know about the well-known innovations at HP, right? We have pretty good laptops, pretty good desktops, printers. I can't tell you how many times I'm at a show and someone comes up and says, my ink cartridges cost too much. What, can you do something about that? And no, I can't. I'm in the software side of things. So, but we have great infrastructure as well. So some of the folks from our enterprise group are actually here today at our booth, and they have some great reference architectures and some infrastructure that you can use as part of your Hadoop systems. So if you're thinking about putting up a Hadoop cluster, you want to think about like how much computing nodes you have, how many storage nodes you have. Those guys can help you out with that. We also have with us our enterprise services team. This is a big part of HP down in Plano, Texas. The enterprise services can help you set up and do a lot of things, and I'll get into that just really briefly. So these are probably the most well-known innovations at HP. Actually we do have one really cool innovation I want to mention as well. So this is the ProLiant 5540 server. It's a really great architecture, scale-out architecture for parallel processing applications. So the key here is with this infrastructure, we are able to kind of separate compute and storage nodes and swap them in and out. So this is hardware that's really recommended for using within a Hadoop infrastructure. We work with our partners like Hortonworks to really make this sing when you set up a Hadoop cluster. So those guys are here. They're part of the HP booth, and feel free to check them out. So let's talk about where I come from now, though. This is the Haven, probably the lesser known part of HP, the Haven platform. Within the Haven platform, we really have a couple of goals. We realize that out in the world, we have business data, and that is, your typical CRM and ERP data. Usually it's highly structured. We've been doing a pretty good job with business data for a long time in a lot of different databases, right? So business data, somewhat easy, although volumes are growing, and a lot of folks are looking to improve analytical performance around business data. So that's just CRM and ERP. We have machine data, and that's the new streams that we're seeing a lot more of. So the Internet of Things, weblogs, anything that's calling home, any device that's calling home and delivering data back to your enterprise is a type of data that we're seeing now. And then the third one is human data, and that's voice, video, audio, trying to do facial recognition, trying to do optical character recognition, right? So we want to try to help you ingest 100% of your data, including business data, machine data, and human data. And we have 3 engines to help you do that. So the first engine that we have is our HP Idle engine, and that's where you really provide human information, understanding of human information in context. So we have some great APIs for voice, video, facial recognition. Actually, Idle on Demand is available on-premise. It's also available on demand or in the cloud, so you can go to our Idle on Demand and try that out. We have Vertica, which was the sort of got its genesis from Michael Stonebreaker, way back in the day. It's a columnar store database, very fast, highly scalable, built from the ground up to perform analytics. And this, by the way, was done before Hadoop was even part of the whole picture, right? So we have a highly scalable database that works in a cluster that doesn't require Hadoop. Works with Hadoop, but it doesn't require it. And then thirdly, we have a new innovation called distributed R. So where Vertica is really good at doing analytical, sort of past analytical stuff, like how much did we sell yesterday, who's our best customer, distributed R is really good for predictive. So I want to know, what machine's going to fail in the future, or what is my customer most likely to buy in the future. We can, apply R algorithms against that, predictive algorithms against that. So we have these three engines, and they are made available on-premise, in private cloud or public cloud, or on Hadoop, if you want to use them as part of your Hadoop cluster. And again, with the goal in mind that you're going to build highly scalable applications, business applications that can harness 100% of your data, that you can deploy anywhere, you can deploy in the cloud, and they offer all sorts of analytics, including predictive analytics. So really that's the premise of the HP Haven platform, and it's what we've developed over the last few years. So let's take a look a little bit now at Vertica. I don't know, have most of you heard of Vertica before? Show of hands, anybody? Yeah, a few of you, okay, great. So we can go through this quickly, but the idea here is that we are a columnar store, massively parallel database. A lot of our customers use this as part of their data warehouse modernization, right? So they have some older legacy technology that they've used in their data warehouse. They're hitting a certain volume of data, and it starts to choke. It starts to not deliver on their SLAs. And so they come to us for help with that. Now, we asked a lot of our customers in 2014, how much did we boost performance over the last analytic solution that you used? And some of our customers, 10%, said over 1,000% boost by using a columnar store database over the likes of MySQL and some of the typical data warehouse applications that are out there. Clearly, 64% or so got at least 100% boost in performance. So really amazing boost in performance, even when you're having multiple concurrent users hitting up against the database. So what that means, what that 1,000% means is, an analytics that used to run overnight, you start it, you go to bed, you wake up the next morning, you have your cup of coffee, you wake up, used to take overnight to run, now is under 30 seconds, right? And this is actually kind of troubling for a lot of folks, like the guy from Guess Jeans. So, he actually did a POC with us initially, and he loaded a bunch of data into Vertica and ran the analytics, and he said, no, it can't be. It's broken. I must not have loaded all the data in or something along that line, right? But come to find out it was fine. So they thought the queries were broken. It runs so fast. Just really amazing performance. And the way we do that is actually, with these kind of pillars, right? We have columnar storage. So, when you're doing your queries back, it only is loading the data that is necessary to answer the query. We have, because we store in columns, we compress. And depending on what the data is, the data can compress really good, anywhere from 2 to 10%, generally as a normal rule of thumb. We have our own scale-out architecture, so you can use ours, or you can use the Hadoop infrastructure. And then we have something called projections. They're kind of like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with materialized views, but they're kind of like materialized views, but different. They allow you to take hold of any really particularly tricky queries and predispose the data so that it will answer that query very quickly. So we have these great optimizations that are part of the platform. Now, one of the things that we just announced within the past year or so is HP Vertica for SQL and Hadoop. So we're taking that same query engine, the HP Vertica ANSI SQL query engine, and then we're allowing you to do queries on top of Hadoop storage, right? So we don't care which distribution you use. It could be MapR, it could be Cloudera, or it could be Hortonworks. So we're distribution agnostic. Because our query engine has been around for 9 or 10 years now, it's very stable, very robust, very advanced. It has all the advanced analytical functions that are typical for what you might expect. And of course, you have HP and all that stuff behind it. And when we did this, we said, we want to make sure that we have a competitive price point. So we have pricing that's per node on this, right? Just like the other Hadoop applications that are out there. So we're pricing this per node. As much data as you can shove into a node, that's your price point per node. So really good innovation, really fast, really great for data exploration. Now, if we drill down just a little bit more on that, kind of what happens is that, we do have file systems, we do have formats, and we do have a query engine. So the Vertica query engine can be on top of multiple file formats and file systems. If your data is stored in a Vertica optimized file format, we call it ROS, which is read-only storage, or read optimized storage, I should say. If it's stored in that format, then that's going to be the fastest analytics. It's going to be very fast. And if it's stored on our file system, which is based on Red Hat, we call it ext4, then that also will be the fastest solution. So if you store the data in our database, in our file format, then it's going to be very fast. However, you can also store the data in ORC or Parquet files, and you can also store it on any of the Hadoop distributions. And we can access and query that. Again, not as fast because it's not as optimized, but a single query engine can help rule both of those. One of the nice things about this is that if for some reason you weren't getting the query performance that you wanted out of your Hadoop distribution, you can move the data very easily into our format, into our optimizations, and get a boost in performance, a huge boost in performance as well. So you can use both our query engine. I'll get to your questions, and we'll have some Q&A at the end. Particularly around Hortonworks, one of the really cool things that we're doing here is, we're working with the Hortonworks to help optimize the ORC file. So we recently came out with an initial version of this, and then Hortonworks actually helped us, their development team helped us create a special ORC file, ORC file reader. And just in initial benchmarks, it's about 10% faster than our Parquet reader, and much faster than our older strategy. But the cool thing here is when you're using the Vertica query engine on top of this stuff, we can do about 98% of the TCP benchmarks, which are benchmarks they use in order to sort of test analytical performance and queries. So the TCP benchmarks are really important here. So a lot of the competitors out there do 30, 40%, right? We're able to do all of the queries, or almost all of the queries. We're working on those two that we can't do at this point. So the key thing here, again, is that we are full ANSI SQL compliant. We have full function. If you want to have multiple users hitting up against doing queries against your ORC files, you can use Vertica for that, and Vertica with SQL on Hadoop. We are ASIC compliant, and we protect data integrity, right? So really cool stuff here when it comes to Vertica. We have integrated with Embari as well. So we have our Vertica management console that can go out and sort of take a look at the nodes and look at the health of the nodes. And then within our own GUI, you can see, how CPU utilization, network usage, disk usage, and things like that. And that's part of the platform as well. So we're starting to integrate and build more Hadoop function into the Vertica platform. For security, we have Kerberos integration, so this provides security and encryption for it, and also provides a single way to authenticate between Vertica and Hadoop services. So Kerberos is an important part of this. So that's a really high-level look at HP Vertica, and we think that's going to be a great, powerful, full-function SQL engine that you can use on top of Hadoop, or if you want to, you can optimize and bring that into our own file system, our own cluster-based file system. Let's take a look now at Distributed R, which is actually a project that was led by the open source community and HP Labs. It's a great way to do predictive analytics. So normally when you're using R, which is a statistical language for doing it, you're kind of stuck with one node, right? All the data has to be kind of shoved in one node, then you can use your R tools on top of that. What we've done with the help of the community and HP Labs is we've actually taken some of those algorithms and allow you to distribute that workload over the cluster. So distributed R allows you to use multiple nodes as part of it. There's a little bit more to it than that as well. So, I think, one of the things that you can really do as part of this is, you were sort of limited to how much data you could analyze with R, with plain vanilla R. So if you can load that data or more data into the cluster, you can actually analyze more data. And you can reach the SLAs that you need to reach. So we have a vastly improved performance as well. It's still R though, and underneath it all, you can still use those familiar GUIs like RStudio, and the standard R capabilities that are out there in the marketplace. So the way it works underneath is really, a lot of times folks spend a lot of time ingesting data and preparing data when it comes to doing R and predictive analytics. And you can use a combination of Hadoop and Vertica for that. So Vertica is great for that. If you ingest your data into Hadoop, remember now it's highly optimized. It's compressed. So there are a lot of things that you can do around, there are a lot of performance potential improvements that you can have if you ingest it into Vertica. Then the second step would be to use R to build your models and evaluate your models and then deploy those on the Vertica cluster. And then you can use any sort of BI or BI integration with that as well. So again, not only will you get the power of the cluster for this, but you do get some Vertica optimizations as part of this whole process. And I guess that's optional. You could optionally ingest it with Vertica and store the data in Vertica or store it somewhere else. But one of the nice things is you do get all those optimizations that are part of the Vertica platform. So out of the box, we have some algorithms that we've distributed. Not all the R algorithms are distributed at this point. If you're part of the open source community, we definitely invite you to come along and help us build out this set of algorithms. We're kind of looking for folks who can help us build these out and help make distributed algorithms. And we're also looking for what the market needs at this point, right? So we started with these 5 types, if you will. And then we'll start to expand those out as time goes on. Now this is kind of a weird benchmark, I agree. So I think the idea, I'm not always in charge of benchmarks, but the idea here was that, given you have an SLA, let's say you have an SLA of 300 seconds to deliver back analytics, and then your number of records grows, what do you need in order to complete that SLA? So obviously I start with 0.3 billion or 300 million records. I need one server to deliver on that 300 second time frame, obviously. When I jump up to 2.9 billion records, in order to deliver on that 300 second SLA, I would need about 8 servers. So it's great. The scalability of this is great. We have the data set given here and the cores that we used. We used obviously HP DL380 servers to perform this benchmark. I think as time goes on, we'll have different benchmarks. Like I would like to see, for example, we have 2.9 billion records. What would happen if I ran that on 5 and 1 and 8 and 16? So we'll build that out as time goes on. This is a fairly new project, and as the last speaker says, engineers have a hard time sometimes doing benchmarks for you. So we looked at the HP Haven platform. We looked at HP Vertica, which is great for structured data. We looked at distributed R, which is great for predictive analytics. Let's just look really quickly at HP Idle and what's available there. So some of the things that we're offering as APIs for the Idle platform is audio, video, and picture analysis. So if you want to do facial recognition of a video file or a picture, This can do both face detection and facial recognition in different APIs. It can do things like transcribing audio and video as part of the IDLE platform. It can find related concepts. So here we put in Hewlett-Packard in the Related Concepts Engine API. And it found these other related concepts in Wikipedia, using Wikipedia as the data source. It can do optical character recognition. So here we have a piece of graphics, right, that it took a look at, was able to analyze and do optical character recognition. And there's really so much more. The IDLE platform can connect to a lot of different file sources. It can do the parsing and context-sensitive processing within unstructured data. All of this stuff is really available for you to try and play around with in idleondemand.com. I just have a couple of other things that I want to mention that are part of our booth and part of the platform that we have, a couple of plugs. So obviously Enterprise Services is here, and we have a huge team in Plano, Texas that can help you with the challenges, setting up some of the business drivers and business challenges and trying to identify those, consulting, systems integration, and so on. So if this is something that you need help with, please come by and check out what we have for us. And then finally, we also have our HP Big Data Conference, which is coming to Boston. So feel free to come by and see some of the things that we have with Vertica integration and IDLE integration. So this is where we take all of our developers and all of our engineers and we put them in technical sessions. You can kind of interact with them. We also have Nate Silver as one of our keynote speakers. So feel free to come and visit us in Boston in August. So I mentioned Vertica, I mentioned IDLE. So if you want to try IDLE on demand, just go to idleondemand.com. If you want to try Vertica, you can use it for free for as long as you want, for up to 1 terabyte, up to 3 nodes. Feel free to test drive it, download it, and use it for as long as you want from our Vertica site. Wow, that was a quick presentation. So I guess any questions or any thoughts on that? I know you had one in back there. Yeah, sir.
So, do you have ways by which you can innovate on top of this platform? For example, APIs, exposing APIs or something. If people build on top of this and build it as a solution, then this is API layer on top of Vertica that they can use it in.
Yeah, so the question is there an API layer on top of Vertica? Absolutely. So, we have your typical, for Vertica, we have typical UDXs that you can build and use and share. We have actually a community site that allows you to take some of those things that you built and put it out in the community and share with them as well. So, there definitely is a way, an open platform that you can use as part of this. Obviously, with the distributed R platform, we went to the open source community for that. That is an open source project. It's free. If you want to download it, you can use that. We also sell support services around that, though, from HP. So, yeah, I mean, this definitely is an open product. Any other thoughts or questions? Yeah, right in front there. Yeah, so MapR works the same, so we are platform agnostic. It works really well with MapR. We have one further integration with MapR, and that is with NFS. So, we use the Linux operating system Red Hat as our basis for ext4, which is our operating system. Linux and NFS, MapR NFS, looks very similar and acts very similar. So, we can leverage that as well as part of the MapR. Yes, sir.
You mentioned that there would be a difference in speed as you store the data on Vertica versus Hadoop. What kind of degradation are you talking about?
I think that depends quite a bit on what kind of data and what kind of queries you have. So, yeah, I think we have some benchmarks that we can show you, and maybe if you drop off your card, I can give you a little more information on that. But generally, it's going to be a fairly big drop off in performance. I would put it a different way, right? So if you're using a SQL on Hadoop now, it's going to be comparable to the SQL on Hadoop that you're using now. If you want to boost performance, you can put it in Vertica and get a big bump in performance. So at least 2x, probably more.
And your presentation, getting a copy of that?
Yeah, it's part of the, I submitted it this morning, so hopefully you'll get it as part of the package.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions or thoughts or? Okay, great. Well, thank you all for coming. I'm glad we finished up early, so now you have some free time, a little extra time.